The wake of the assassination of former Kabete MP George Muchai, his two bodyguards and a driver in the wee hours of 7th February 2015 at the Nairobi Central Business District, pressure was mounting for police officers to nail down suspects behind the gruesome murders. This was until information that saw 5 suspects and a murder weapon tracked down was delivered to them on a platter by a taxi driver. Now, former taxi driver Maurice Njuguna had been contacted by the suspects minutes after the Kenyatta Avenue shootings to transport them to various destinations. 6 years on, Njuguna's revelations have come with a hefty price, including his freedom and safety following stints within and without the Witness Protection Program. And as he intimated to our very own David Muthoka, Njuguna says his decision to play a role in the search for justice for a man he never knew nor met has put his life on a spin. If he could go back in time, he adds, he would never have picked a phone call from a client 6 years ago. To him, it has become nothing less than a phone call from hell.
On 7th February 2015, as the country woke up to the assassination of former Kabete Member of Parliament George Muchai, his 2 bodyguards and a driver by a gun-toting gang, thousands of thoughts must have been crisscrossing the mind of former taxi driver Maurice Njuguna. Then a 33-year-old taxi driver who had just finished his night shift and probably hoping to catch up on a few hours of sleep, he just could not shut his eyes. And when he did, the events of the past few hours kept replaying in his mind like a horror movie, denying him any ounce of comfort. Within those few hours, Njuguna had started what would mark the beginning of a new life, a life marred by regrets and incessant moments of I wish I knew. Someone he had grown familiar to called him requesting for taxi services on that fateful Saturday morning of 7th February at around 3:30 a.m. He explains that the caller and his friends were not ordinary taxi clients. Their behavior and their luggage told silent but very loud tales. Not forgetting, an MP had been assassinated by sharpshooters moments earlier. He might have chosen to ignore the call. After all, his shift had lapsed 30 minutes ago, but he did not. Why he didn't, he has no idea to date. But if he could turn back the hand's time, he says he would have given that phone call a wide berth and called it a night without a second thought.
Kwa tu nimegoja mteja kwa yard penye nafanya kazi. A client akanipigia, akaniambia anataka service, nimchukue mahali fulani, nimpeleke mahali fulani.
The fateful phone call was from a client whom Njuguna carried not once, not twice along the Kangemi Westlands Highway at night, and within just 5 minutes, the client arrived at the Total Kangemi petrol station, which was the pickup point, prompting Maurice to ignite his Toyota 110 saloon car bound for Kikuyu.
After kufika karibu Kabete police station, alitoa pistol on his back, akaileta kwa mbele yake na akaikoka akaiweka hapo. Hapo ndipo nikamuuliza kwani kunaendaje. Kaniambia nisijari. Mambo inakuanga mingi.
It was the first time he had seen the client with a gun. Unknown to him, the events that followed will send chills down his spine.
Kufika mahali inaitwa Mugoga, another guy akaingia kwa akaniambia simama hapo, another guy akaingia. Now that guy kuingia alikuwa ameweka mask, alikuwa na mask.
The masked man will later be placed by a witness at Kenyatta Avenue on the very night that Muchai alongside his driver and bodyguards were killed. The witness will further reveal that the man had single-handedly fired killer bullets at the four who had stopped to buy newspapers from him. Eager to catch up on the news of that day, little did they know that they would make headlines for the days and the months to come.
Huyu sasa mwenye ameingia na huda ni sasa alianza kuendelea na kucommunicate. Akiulizanga hao wengine kama wamepanguza kila kitu, wamefunga hao watu vizuri, kama wame make sure hakuna fingerprint yoyote iko karibu, kama wamepanguza kila kitu.
3 more men would later board the taxi, which made an about turn back to the city, but not without taking various diversions, where Njuguna saw the gang first dispose of a rifle before lighting at Mountain View and Kangemi respectively.
Lakini kana park gari, nikakuwa tu suspicious, nikasema wacha ni search hii gari wasikuwe wameacha kitu yoyote. Hapo ndipo nilikutana na kachuma kadogo. Akachuma kadogo ambacho kalikuwa kananuka vibaya sana. Mimi nikakachukua nikakaeka. After kukaeka, mimi nilipark gari nikaenda home.
The suspicious metallic object was a safety pin left behind by the gang. Thinking that his clients were just criminals from a robbery spree, it was until 2 days later when it began to dawn on Njuguna that they might have been involved in the killing of Muchai and his security detail that weekend. His conscience kept pricking him, and when he could not bear it anymore, he approached an OCS friend of his. He told the senior police officer how he was hired by people armed to the teeth for an unknown mission just moments after the late Kabete Member of Parliament and former Kotu Deputy Secretary General had been killed.
After that, sasa ndivyo wakaingia kwa database yao, wakaniambia they have located where they are. Na sasa mimi naweza goja. Lakini wakaniambia kitu moja, before uende nyumbani utatupeleka penye uliona walieka mizi hizo mabags na nini. Ndipo nikaeka kwa gari ya polisi, now the flying squad, nikawampeleka mpaka huko Kioro Road.
As a result of good leads so far obtained from suspects and eyewitnesses interviewed by the police, investigators are in hot pursuit of other suspects.
A total of 7 suspects will later be charged for the murder of Muchai, his 2 bodyguards Samuel Lekakeni and Samuel Kimathi, as well as driver Stephen Wambugu. But as court proceedings took off, it did not occur to Njuguna that his role in the investigations would rub someone or some people the wrong way.
Sasa mimi nilikuwa nafanya usiku, kuna jamaa mwenye alikuwa nafanya na hiyo gari mchana. Huyo jamaa alikuwa anafanya mchana, unfortunately alimarwa. Aliweza kuuliwa. Na after kuuliwa alikuwa anaitwa David Njuguna. Mimi nilikuwa naitwa Morris Njuguna.
His life on tenterhooks, the state placed him under the Witness Protection Program until he testified before the High Court in the murder case. But after telling his side of the story in court, it did not take long before Njuguna was removed under the Witness Protection Program, leaving him with the feeling that the state abandoned him, still at his most vulnerable condition.
Sasa hapo ndio askari akaniambia, I think ni kama government imemalizana nawe. 6
years on, Njuguna fears that his life might still be in danger. Speaking from his hideout, where he has to constantly look over his shoulder, he claims numerous attempts to seek audience with the government over some of the promises it made as a security guarantee have been in vain.
Walikuwa wananiambia identity card yangu itabadilishwa. Hiyo majina nilikuwa natumia nisikue naitumia tena. Then akaniambia I'll be relocated.
This amid knocking on all doors possible, including the DCI, the DPP, as well as the Ministry of Interior. He, however, still holds on to whatever glimmer of hope left that his ultimate cry will be answered, so long as the ghost of Muchai, a man he never knew nor met, lives on. David Mudhoka, TV47.
I wish I knew.